Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome to a different type of video. Not a Let's Talk Anime episode, but a different video altogether. Now, for the longest time, I've been making top 10s on my list, mainly being Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh openings, as well as the occasional top 10 anime that I was watching at the current moment. But today I'm going to do a little bit of a different video. Throughout the few years that I've been serious about watching anime, there have been some that I've watched that I thought, okay, this is cool, kind of a middle of the road, nothing spectacular about it. But then there were some that after I got done watching it, I just realized, oh my gosh, this is just absolutely incredible. And a large part of that is because of small little hints and little subtle notes that I noticed in the show that I could easily relate to my own life. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that does this, because at least for me, when I'm watching the anime, if I find a character or an idea or something like that that I can relate to my own life, it makes it, well, relatable. So today's video, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to title this when the video comes out, but I'm going to talk about 6 anime that have influenced the person that I am today. Now this could be for a number of different reasons. Either I see a character that I easily relate to and I just want to see them excel at everything that they do. Or it could be a show that I really enjoyed watching. But most of these on this list are because of ideas or characters that I easily related to my own life. And of course, since these anime are on here because of their own ties that I related to my own personal life, there's no question that it's going to be 100% my opinion. And if you want, leave any anime that you watched down in the comment section on how much they related to your life, how much you enjoyed watching them, anything like that. This video is more less than serious tone, and I just want to talk about a lot of anime that I watched that I saw hints of my own life in while I was watching them. So without any further ado, let's get into this top 6 actually. I don't know if I've mentioned, but this is going to be a top 6, mainly because it was hard enough finding 6 for this. I tried to find 10 to start, but I just couldn't find 10, and at that point I would be really pushing things that I could relate to my own life. But before I get into the actual list, there are a couple of honorable mentions that I want to bring up. And of course, these honorable mentions are Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I figured to get them out of the way, put them separately from the top 6 list, because everybody's going to be waiting for them to be up, and there's a reason that they're still here. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Were huge in my childhood. I remember watching the original Pokemon series and the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series back when I was younger. And I've made it no secret that Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and the Sinnoh region of Pokemon were my favorite of each because they were having new episodes when I was in high school. And even with a lot of the crap that I had to go through with high school, 5Ds and Sinnoh were my saving grace in that. Not that high school was bad or anything, but it's high school. And like I kind of mentioned already, I know that people are expecting these to be on the list, and they're super predictable to put on here, so I just left them as honorable mentions. But the main reason that I like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! So much, apart from my nostalgia, is just because it shows how determination and friends by your side and all that stuff, you can handle anything that life throws at you. And especially for an impressionable young kid like myself, that was something that I definitely needed to hear. But before I get into the actual list, let me just say that the order of the anime on this list doesn't signify how good the show actually is. I placed them in the order that I did because of how relatable that they were to me. Like for example, many things could change the order of an anime on this list. Like if it's only one single episode out of the whole entire show that makes me appreciate it, it's gonna be a bit lower on the list. But let's get into the actual list. And at number 6 is Konosuba. Now I know that I talked about Konosuba in another video already, but I just need to bring it up again because I absolutely love this show. Just from the concept of it being a fresh spin on the whole otherworld sort of thing. But the thing that I kind of clicked with the show about is how healthy it is to laugh even when crazy things are happening in life. Like, for example, Kazuma dealing with basically a crappy team, being Darkness, Aqua, and Megumin. But the basic idea that I got from Konosuba is it's not always good to try and act serious when things are difficult, because later on in life you're gonna look back on that thing and notice how either ridiculous you were for overreacting or acting the way that you did, or just laughing at what happened back then. Now I am aware that I'm grasping at straws a little bit with that sort of life lesson or whatever, but I just wanted to have another reason to talk about Konosuba. Plus, I'm not sure if people will be interested in watching a top 5. But at number 5 is A Place Further Than the Universe. Now this was what I was mentioning earlier, because I know a lot of people adored A Place Further Than the Universe when it had new episodes. But for me, the whole exploration part of the show, like going to Antarctica, all that stuff, it never really clicked with me. Like, after the last episode, I never really got the urge to say, okay, I'm gonna go out and explore the world. I'm not sure if it's just my own personal take on the show, or the fact that I may or may not be lazy. I'm not really sure about that last part. But the only part that I really related to on a personal level is Hinata's backstory. I can't remember what episode it was. It might be episode 8 or 9. I'm sure I'll look it up before the video comes out, and I'll be sure to let you know post-editing. But the basic idea of it is Hinata was part of this school team or whatever. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been like cross-country or something to that effect. And her classmates basically stabbed her in the back, more or less. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that was the reason that she dropped out in the show, and it gave background on the whole thing when that episode came out. The reason that I relate to this is it kind of reminded me of those times I was being bullied in middle and high school. It wasn't really the same thing, but I still really related to Hinata for that whole thing about feeling like you're stabbed in the back by your friends and stuff like that. Now, the reason that A Place Further Than the Universe is only at number 5 is because I only really related to one episode out of the 13 episodes that A Place Further Than the Universe actually had, and relating to mainly one episode out of 13 is why it's this low on the list. And number 4 is Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. I feel like I'm talking about a lot of anime that I've already discussed in other videos, but the reason Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions is number 4 on this list is for the sole purpose of the imagination that it has. And I especially love how some characters like Rika and Dekamori still have that whole imagination part of them, while characters like Nibutani try to deny that whole thing. And it's really cool that it's kind of like a divide between kids having the imagination, whereas when you grow up into an adult, you kind of lose that imagination and that sense of wonder. And imagination is definitely an interesting thing to have, especially when life is kind of boring and monotonous at times. Like, if you're working a 5-day work week, it's basically the same thing every single day, so you have to use your imagination to try and make it interesting. And I'm aware it's kind of silly to put Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions at number 4, mainly for imagination, but that's what I did. Like I said, it really relates to my own personal life, and this list is going to reflect that, so that's why it's number 4. Number 3 is 2006's version of Canon. Now, for those of you that haven't seen Canon, it was produced in 2006 by Kyoto Animation. And I believe there was also a 2002 version, I think it was. I know it was an earlier version that was by a different company. I think it was Toei Animation, actually. But basically the plot of it is this main character, who I can't remember the name of right now, and I feel kind of bad for not remembering the name. He goes to this hometown that his cousin is at, and he basically meets all these girls, and he eventually gets memories of meeting them 7 years ago, and eventually starts regaining all of his memories of everything that happened when he met all of them 7 years ago. If it wasn't obvious that this show was made by Kyoto Animation, it draws very, very huge resemblance to Clannad, because you have a main character who's kind of sarcastic, kind of a little smart sometimes, and a whole bunch of girls. They take 10 episodes to focus on one character, and then they go to the next character. And personally, I prefer Canon to Clannad, probably just because I watched Canon recently, but honestly, I feel like it does Clannad's job just a little bit better with less episodes. After hearing me explain the show like that, you might be thinking, okay, so what's so great about Canon? It takes about 10 episodes to focus on one character, and then it goes to the next. That seems kind of random. And well, that's life. Life is, first of all, random, and second of all, sometimes we interact with people for a short time and then lose touch for different reasons. Some characters, especially in canon and in real life, we spend longer time with and get to know a lot better. And especially in canon, I'm not going to spoil any of it here, but some of the results for some of the girls' subplots do end up kind of bad, but that's also life. So more or less, canon is basically the personification of life, because it shows how we interact with people for sometimes short amount of time, sometimes long amounts of time, and it really shows how cruel life can be sometimes. And number 2 on my list is My Hero Academia. I can imagine that people have been waiting for this one to be on the list, especially since I may or may not put a character from the show in the thumbnail. I don't know, I haven't made the thumbnail yet. But honestly, I could just take up this slot with what All Might says to Deku at the end of episode 1. I don't exactly remember how he words it, but I'm going to paraphrase it the best I can. You can be a hero if you really try. Now, if that doesn't scream inspiration, then I don't know what will. Another thing that I like, which is actually from a more recent episode of My Hero Academia, is Todoroki's words to Deku when they're discussing Kota. Deku's trying to convince Kota that not all heroes or villains are inherently bad, but Todoroki basically says you can't expect Kota to open up if he doesn't want to. To put this in another way, you can't expect people to do anything if they don't want to. And I really love how they handled that, because a lot of anime just seem to overlook this, and especially with the case of Deku and Kota, if it was by any other stretch of the imagination, they would just have the scene play out like it would in any other anime, and then Kota would just think, oh, I'm gonna talk to Deku about this because he's the main character and I feel like I should talk to him about this. I like how Academia makes it realistic and doesn't make Kota just open up to Deku just because of what I'd like to call protagonist power. And I can imagine that there are a lot more other life lessons in My Hero Academia that I might have missed, so make sure to drop them in the comment section if you can think of any other ones. But number 1 on my list is New Game. Yep, that's right, another top 10 on my channel where New Game is number 1. Now again, let me say that just because New Game is number 1 doesn't mean it's the best show out of all of these. Needless to say, a lot of you will probably argue that Academia should be number 1 in that case. But the basic plot of New Game is Alba Suzakaze is starting a new job right out of high school. And I just love how they show how Alba reacts to starting her new job and adapts to it. And I should know, I've had to do that 3 times already. But I just love how realistic it is, especially with Alba basically being scared to death to even walk in the building in the first episode. And I especially love how Alba is flustered at the very start of the show, not sure what to do, but basically adapts to it and gets the hang of all the stuff that she needs to do. Because this is my third or fourth week at the new job that I have, and it's basically the same thing for me. It took a little bit of getting used to, but I'm more or less learning what I have to do and adapting to it. Which is actually very cool because there are very few anime that I watch that show how starting a new job actually can be. From all the anime that I have watched, I like how New Game handles it. Especially since these aren't like your usual 15, 16, 17-year-old girls. These are adults, which makes it all the more relatable to me. But that covers my list of anime that has inspired the person that I am. Did I just say person? That is my list of the top 6 anime that has inspired the person that I am today. If you can think of a list like this for yourself, leave that in the comment section. And again, this video is entirely my opinion, all based off of the experiences that I've had in my life. So, again, 100% opinion. I'm not sure how this video is going to turn out. I've recorded almost 30 minutes of dialogue. Hopefully I can slim that down to something that's actually bearable to watch. But regardless, I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have an awesome day, everybody.
分の学びをカバンに詰め込んでいつもみたいまた